This is the first of 3 videos I'm going to be doing on percentages. In this video, I'm going to be looking at the basics of finding percentages of quantities. Then in the next video, I'm going to be looking at percentage increase and decrease. And finally, I'm going to be looking at writing one number as a percentage of another. So in this video, I'm going to be looking at finding percentages of quantities. I'm also going to be writing percentages as fractions in their simplest form in order to solve percentage problems. And this leads into finding percentages without using a calculator. You need to know about fractions of amounts, which I've covered in a previous video. And there's also a video I did that compared fractions to decimals and to percentages, as I'm going to be making a reference to this later on. Now, in the last video, I looked at finding fractions of amounts, and I looked at this example of finding 3/4 of 12. And what we did was we would divide by the denominator, so we have 12 divided by 4 is equal to 3, then multiply by the numerator. 3 multiplied by 3 is equal to 9. The key thing with percentages is that remember that percent means out of 100. So 23% means 23 out of 100. And so we can treat this as a fractions problem. So if we were trying to find 23% of £5, if we were using a calculator, we could type in 5 divided by 100 multiplied by 23, and we end up with 1.15. Remember that we started with £5 and we found 23% of it, so 1.15 is actually £1.15. Alternatively, we can think of 23% as 0.23, because 23 divided by 100 is 0.23. So when finding 23% of £5, we could type in 5 multiplied by 0.23, and this is equal to 1.15. So 23% of £5 is £1.15. So there are 2 ways in which we can work out this problem. Let's look at another problem. 14% of £4.50. So 14% is 14 over 100. So we could type in 4.5 divided by 100 multiplied by 14 is equal to 0.63. And because we were starting with £4.50, this 0.63 must mean 63 pence, or 0.63 pounds. Alternatively, we can think of 14% as 0.14, because 14 divided by 100 is 0.14. We could type into our calculator 4.5 multiplied by 0.14 is equal to 0.63. It's as simple as that. So 14% of £4.50 is 0.63 pounds, or 63 pence. Let's do one more problem. Find 25% of £600. Well, 25% is 25 over 100. So we could type into our calculator 600 divided by 100 multiplied by 25, which is equal to 150. So this will be £150. Alternatively, we can think of 25% as 0.25. So we could type into our calculator 600 multiplied by 0.25, and that gives us the answer 150. But we can also think of 25 over 100 as a quarter. Remember, 25 over 100 can simplify to a quarter. So we could type into our calculator 600 divided by 4, because we're finding a quarter of 600. And again, we get 150. So 25% of £600 is 150. This last problem introduces the idea of writing percentages as fractions in their simplest form, and we can use this to help us tackle percentage problems, especially in non-calculator questions. In a previous video where we looked at fractions, decimals and percentages, we ended up with a table that looked like this. And we can see that certain fractions represent certain percentages. So a half can be thought of as 50%, a quarter can be thought of as 25%, 3/4 as 75%, and so on. And we can use this for tackling certain questions without the use of a calculator. And the chances are in non-calculator questions, you'll be tested on your knowledge of this work. So let's have a look by starting with 10%. Now, finding 10% of something is finding a tenth of something. So if we have £20, 10% of £20 is a tenth of £20, which is £2. 20% of something is a fifth of something. So 20% of £20 is 20 divided by 5, which is equal to £4. If we have 25%, well, this is a quarter of something. So if we were finding 25% of £20, well, this is going to be 25 divided by 4, which is equal to £5. If we wanted to find 50% of something, well, that's a half of something. So 50% of £20 is 20 divided by 2, which is equal to £10. If we wanted to find 75% of something, well, that's 3/4 of that something. 75% of £20 is 20 divided by 4 multiplied by 3, which is equal to £15. Notice that 100% of something is that something. So 100% of £20 is £20. And if you had to find 110% of something, well, think of this as 100% add 10%. So 110% of £20 is the £20 add 10% of £20, which is £2, which is equal to £22. We can also think of 20% as 2 lots of 10%. If you find 10% of something, so for example, here we found 10% of £20, which is equal to £2. And as we know that 10% is £2, 20% must be 2 lots of £2, which is £4. And if we wanted to find 30% of something, we want 3 lots of 10%. So that's 3 lots of £2, which is equal to £6. We can also find 5% of £20 by finding a half of 10%. So that's a half of £2, which is equal to £1. So by breaking percentages down in this way, you can start to build up an arsenal of approaches for tackling percentage problems, especially in non-calculator questions. Which approach you use is down to you. Here are 2 questions. Find 20% of £30 and find 20% of £4. 20% of £30. In this particular example, I'm thinking of 20% as 1/5. The reason being is that 1/5 of 30 is 30 divided by 5, which is equal to 6. So 20% of £30 is equal to £6. But in this question here, find 20% of £4, finding a fifth of £4 isn't as obvious. However, if I found 10% of £4, well, I know that's going to be 40p. So 20% of £4 must be 80p. So 20% of £4 is equal to 80 pence. Find 25% of 32 kilograms. Well, here I'm thinking, 25% is a quarter. So 32 divided by 4 is equal to 8 kilograms. So 25% of 32 kilograms is 8 kilograms. Find 75% of 28 litres. Well, here I'm thinking of 3/4. So 28 divided by 4 is equal to 7. And then 7 multiplied by 3 is equal to 21. Let's look at 2 more examples. Find 45% of 140. Now with 45%, what I'm thinking is 45% is equal to 4 lots of 10% at 5%. I know that 10% of 140 is 140 divided by 10, which is equal to 14. So 40% must be 4 lots of 14, and that is equal to 56. So I've found 40% of 140, but I need to find 45%. So I now need to find 5% of 140, which is basically half of 10%. So 5% is 14 divided by 2, which is equal to 7. So 45% is 56, add 7, which is equal to 63. And one last question, find 120% of £60. So with 120%, I'm thinking of 100% add 20%. 20% of £60, well, I can either do 60 divided by 5, which is equal to 12, or I can do 2 lots of 10%, which is 2 lots of £6, which is equal to £12. So 120% of £60 is 60, add 12, which is equal to £72. So there's a lot there to think about, but certainly with non-calculator questions, there are lots of approaches you can use in order to get to the answer. And we're going to be looking at other shortcuts to finding the answer to particular percentage questions. But with calculator questions, it's simply a case of converting the percentage into a fraction as something out of 100. You then divide by the denominator, which will be 100, and then multiply by the numerator. But that's a brief introduction to percentages of amounts, and we're going to be taking this work forward to look at percentage increase and percentage decrease. Thank you for watching.